You don't need a celebration for every little achievement, my mom texted. As I sat alone with the cake I bought myself. 2 hours later, my aunt posted, family dinner for the real success, my niece's new car. It was my sister. I blew out the candle, logged in, and canceled the $2,300 auto payment I'd been covering for her. By morning, Mom messaged, "Why is her car gone?" My name is Timothy. I'm 29 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned about being the oldest child, it's that your achievements are expected, not celebrated. I got the news on a Thursday afternoon. My boss called me into her office and told me I was being promoted to senior project manager. It was the position I'd been working toward for 4 years. 60-hour weeks, missed weekends, projects that kept me awake at night. All of it finally paid off. I sat in my car in the parking lot and stared at my phone. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted to share this moment. So, I texted my family group chat. Got promoted today. Senior PM. Pretty excited. I waited. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. "That's nice, Timothy. You don't need a celebration for every little achievement." I read the message 3 times. Every little achievement. For years of work. For years of proving myself. For years of climbing a ladder that felt like it had no end. Little achievement. I drove home in silence. I stopped at a grocery store. I bought a small cake, chocolate, my favorite. The kind with the thick frosting that's too sweet, but I love it anyway. I brought it home. I set it on my kitchen counter. I stuck a single candle in the center. I sat on my couch and looked at it. Nobody was coming. Nobody was going to knock on my door with a card or a smile or even a kind word. I had spent my entire life being the dependable one. The one who got good grades because that's what oldest children do. The one who got a scholarship because paying for college was expected. The one who got a job right after graduation because that's what responsible people do. My younger sister Melissa was different. She was 25. She had never held a job longer than 6 months. She lived at home. She spent her days shopping and posting photos online. And my parents adored her. When Melissa got her driver's license at 16, my parents threw a party. When she graduated high school, they rented a hall. When she decided to go to community college, they celebrated her courage. When I got my master's degree, my mom sent a thumbs up emoji. I didn't complain. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need validation. I told myself I was mature enough to be happy for myself. But sitting alone with a grocery store cake, I realized I was lying. I wanted someone to be proud of me just once. My phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen. It was my Aunt Karen. She had posted something on social media. I opened it. The photo showed a long table at a fancy restaurant. My parents, my sister, my uncle, my cousins. Everyone was smiling. There were balloons. There was champagne. The caption read, "Family dinner for the real success." My niece's new car. So proud of Melissa. I stared at the photo. They were all there. The entire family celebrating my sister. 2 hours after my mom told me I didn't need a celebration. I zoomed in on the picture. There was Melissa sitting at the head of the table, grinning. Behind her was a set of car keys on a decorative stand. Her new car. The car I had been paying for. For 8 months, I had been covering a $2,300 monthly auto payment for Melissa. She had wanted a luxury SUV. She couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't afford it. So they asked me, just until she gets on her feet. "Timothy, you're doing so well. You can spare it." I said yes. I always said yes. I had been paying $2,300 a month while working 60-hour weeks. While eating ramen for dinner. While watching my savings account shrink. And now they were throwing her a party. I set my phone down. I looked at the cake, at the single candle. I thought about the last 4 years, the last 8 months, the last 29 years. And I realized something. I was done being invisible. I lit the candle. I watched the small flame flicker in the quiet of my apartment. I thought about making a wish. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? But I didn't need a wish. I needed action. I blew out the candle. Then I opened my laptop. I logged into my bank account. I found the recurring payment, the one labeled Auto Loan Melissa Vehicle. $2,300 deducted automatically on the 15th of every month. I stared at the screen. 8 months, $18,400. $18,400 I had given to someone who was currently sitting at a restaurant being celebrated. While I sat alone. My phone buzzed. Another notification. Another post. This time it was my cousin. "Melissa's car is gorgeous. She deserves it. Deserves it." I clicked on the payment. I selected Cancel Recurring Payment. A confirmation box appeared. "Are you sure you want to cancel this scheduled payment?" I didn't hesitate. I clicked yes. Then I pulled up the dealership's contact information. I had signed as the financial guarantor. My name was on the loan. My credit was on the line. I called the dealership. A man answered, Metro Luxury Auto. How can I help you? Hi, my name is Timothy Murphy. I'm calling about a vehicle loan. Account number 447893321. One moment, I heard typing. Yes, Mr. Murphy. How can I assist you? I'd like to remove myself as the guarantor on this loan. There was a pause. Sir, if you remove yourself, the primary account holder will need to qualify on their own. If they can't, the vehicle will be repossessed. I understand. Are you sure? Yes. More typing. All right, I'll process the request. It'll take effect within 24 hours. Thank you. I hung up. I sat in the dark. My laptop screen was the only light in the room. I thought about calling my mom, about explaining. About telling her how much it hurt to be dismissed while Melissa was celebrated. But I didn't because she wouldn't understand. She never did. I closed the laptop. I cut a slice of cake. I ate it slowly. It tasted like victory. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Melissa. Thanks for not coming to dinner. More champagne for me, LOL. I stared at the message. She didn't even know. She had no idea that the car she was celebrating, the car she was posing with, the car that made her the center of attention, was about to disappear. I didn't respond. I turned off my phone. I went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. I turned on my phone and watched the notifications flood in. Texts from my mom, from my dad, from Melissa, from my aunt. I opened my mom's first. Timothy, call me now. Why is Melissa's car gone? The dealership called. They said you canceled the payment. What is wrong with you? I scrolled to Melissa's messages. What the hell did you do? They took my car in front of everyone. Mom says you canceled the payment. Are you serious right now? I read every message. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I got dressed. I made coffee. I ate breakfast. My phone rang. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I ignored it. She called a third time. I answered. Timothy, what have you done? Good morning, Mom. Don't good morning me. Melissa's car was repossessed this morning at the restaurant in front of everyone. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? You did this on purpose. I canceled a payment I've been making for 8 months. That's all. You can't just do that. She needs that car. Then she should pay for it. She can't afford it. You know that. That's not my problem anymore. Timothy, this is cruel. This is not who you are. You're right. I'm the one who doesn't need celebrations. Remember? I hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. The calls kept coming. The texts kept piling up. My phone buzzed so much I thought it would vibrate off the nightstand. But I didn't move. I just sat there, staring at the wall. Feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction. Just peace. For 8 months, I had carried the weight of that car payment. $2,300 a month, on top of my rent, on top of my student loans. On top of everything else. I had done it because my parents asked. Because Melissa needed it. Because I was the dependable one. And the entire time, nobody said thank you. Nobody acknowledged it. Nobody even seemed to remember. Until the payment stopped. I thought about the dinner, the photo, the champagne, the balloons. I thought about my mom's text. You don't need a celebration for every little achievement. Little achievement. I had worked for 4 years to get this promotion. 4 years of late nights and missed holidays and projects that consumed my life. Melissa had done nothing but exist. And she got the party. I stood up. I walked to the kitchen. I poured another cup of coffee. My phone rang again. I glanced at the screen. It was my dad. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. I played it on speaker. Timothy, your mother is very upset. We need to talk about this. You can't just pull support like that without warning. Melissa is humiliated. The car was towed in front of the whole family. Please call me back. I deleted the voicemail. I sat at my kitchen table. I looked at the leftover cake. I thought about the candle, the wish I didn't make. Maybe I should have wished for this. For the courage to say no. For the strength to walk away. But I didn't need a wish. I just needed to be done. And I was. Melissa had always been the favorite. It wasn't something I imagined. It wasn't subtle. When I was 12 and Melissa was 8, I won a regional science fair. My project was on renewable energy. I had worked on it for months. I stayed up late building models, researching data, writing reports. I won first place. My parents took me to dinner at a chain restaurant. We ate quickly. My dad checked his watch the whole time. He had a work thing. Mom wanted to get home to watch her show. We left after 40 minutes. Nobody framed my certificate. Nobody took photos. When Melissa won a participation ribbon at a dance recital 3 years later, my parents threw a party. They invited relatives. They bought a cake. They hung a banner. When I got my driver's license at 16, my parents said congratulations and handed me the keys to a 15-year-old sedan. It barely ran. I paid for the insurance myself. When Melissa got her license at 16, my parents bought her a brand new car, a compact sedan, bright red. She picked the color. They paid for everything. When I graduated college, my parents attended the ceremony. They clapped. They took one photo. We went to lunch. They split the bill with me. When Melissa graduated high school, they rented a hall. They hired a photographer. They invited 100 people. I helped pay for it. I remembered sitting at that party, watching Melissa dance with our cousins, watching my parents laugh and take photos, watching everyone celebrate her. Nobody asked about my job. Nobody asked about my life. I was 23. I was working full-time. I was living on my own. And I was invisible. When I bought my first apartment, I called my mom to tell her, "That's great, Timothy. Make sure you budget properly." When Melissa moved into a studio apartment at 22, my parents helped her move. They bought her furniture. They stocked her fridge. They threw a housewarming party. I wasn't invited. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was independent. I told myself I didn't need their approval. But I did. I wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to celebrate me the way they celebrated her. But they never did. Because I was the one who succeeded. And success was expected. Melissa was the one who tried. And trying was celebrated. It didn't matter that I worked harder. It didn't matter that I achieved more. It only mattered that she needed more. And I was the one who gave it. 8 months ago, when my parents asked me to help with the car payment, I said yes without hesitation. Because that's what I always did. I said yes, I gave. I helped. And I stayed invisible. But now, sitting in my apartment, staring at the messages flooding my phone, I realized something. I didn't want to be invisible anymore. On Monday, I went to work. I sat in meetings. I answered emails. I reviewed project timelines. Nobody at work knew what had happened over the weekend. Nobody knew about the cake, the dinner, the repossessed car. They just knew I had been promoted. My coworker Rose stopped by my desk. "Congrats on the promotion, Timothy. That's huge." "Thanks. Did you celebrate?" "Sort of." "Well, you should. You earned it." I nodded. She walked away. "You earned it." 4 words. Simple. Honest. Nobody in my family had said them. At lunch, I sat alone in the break room. I pulled out my phone. I had 32 unread messages. Most were from my mom, a few from my dad, several from Melissa. A couple from relatives I barely spoke to. I scrolled through them. From my mom, "Timothy, we need to talk. This is not okay." From Melissa, "You ruined everything. I can't believe you did this." From my aunt, "Your mother is devastated. How could you do this to your sister?" I put the phone down. I thought about responding, about explaining, about defending myself. But I didn't. Because they didn't want an explanation. They wanted me to fix it. They wanted me to apologize. They wanted me to start paying again. And I wasn't going to. That evening, my dad called. I answered, "Timothy. Dad, we need to figure this out. Melissa needs a car. She has interviews. She has places to be. She can take the bus." "The bus?" "Timothy, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. I stopped paying for something I couldn't afford." "You can afford it. You just got promoted. That doesn't mean I should." He sighed. "Timothy, that's not what she meant." "Then what did she mean?" "She just meant that you don't need a big fuss every time something good happens." "But Melissa does." "Melissa is younger. She's still finding her way. She's 25, Dad. When I was 25, I was living on my own, paying all my bills. And sending you money when you needed it. That's different." "How?" He didn't answer. I waited. Finally, he said, "Can you at least help her with a down payment on a used car? Something affordable?" "No, Dad. I'm done helping. I've helped for 8 months. I've helped my whole life. And nobody has ever helped me." "That's not true. Name one time. One time you helped me with something I didn't have to pay back." Silence. "I'll wait," I said. He hung up. I sat in my car in the office parking lot. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I had spent my entire life being the safety net. For people who wouldn't catch me if I fell. And I was done. That night, I did something I should have done years ago. I made a list. I opened a spreadsheet. I labeled the columns: date, amount, description, recipient. Then I went through my bank statements. Every transaction, every payment, every transfer. I went back 3 years. The car payment was easy. $2,300 a month for 8 months, $18,400. But there was more. I found the payments to my parents, the ones labeled rent help. $800 a month for 18 months, $14,400. I found the payments labeled Melissa emergency. $500 here, $1,200 there, $300 for a phone, $600 for a laptop. $900 for a vacation she couldn't afford. Over 3 years, I had given Melissa $9,300 in emergencies. I found payments for family dinners. For birthday gifts I bought on behalf of my parents because they forgot. For repairs on my dad's car. For my mom's medical bills. By the time I finished, the total was staggering. $62,800. I had given my family $62,800 over 3 years. And when I got promoted, my mom said I didn't need a celebration. I stared at the number. I saved the spreadsheet. I printed a copy. I put it in a folder. Then I went back to my bank account. I looked at the recurring payments that were still active. There was one, a transfer to my parents' account. $800 a month, labeled family support. I had set it up 2 years ago when my dad lost his job. He found another one 6 months later. The payment never stopped. I canceled it. Then I went through my subscriptions. I found the streaming services I paid for, the ones my family used. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Disney+. I changed the passwords. I removed their profiles. I went through my phone plan. I had added Melissa to my family plan 3 years ago to save her money. I paid the full bill. She paid nothing. I called the phone company. I removed her line. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. I had cut off every financial connection to my family. I sat back in my chair. I looked at the folder on the table. I thought about sending it to them, about showing them the numbers. About proving that I had given more than they could ever acknowledge. But I didn't. Because it wasn't about proving anything. It was about stopping. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mom. I answered, "Timothy, what did you do to the Netflix?" "I canceled it." "Why?" "I don't need it anymore." "But we use that." "I know. So turn it back on." "No, Mom. I'm not paying for it anymore. If you want Netflix, you can get your own account. This is ridiculous." "Over a car?" "This isn't about the car. This is about everything." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done being your bank account." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You're being selfish." "Good." I hung up. Within an hour, Melissa called. "Why is my phone off?" "I removed you from my plan." "You can't do that." "I just did." "How am I supposed to call people?" "Get your own plan." "With what money?" "That's not my problem." She screamed something I didn't catch. I hung up. I turned off my phone. I sat in the silence of my apartment. For the first time in 3 years, I felt light. On Wednesday evening, my mom showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock. I looked through the peephole. She was standing there, arms crossed, face tight. I opened the door. "Hi, Mom. We need to talk." "About what?" "You know what." I stepped aside. She walked in. She looked around at the clean counters, the organized shelves, the quiet space. "You've really done this, haven't you? Cut us off completely." "I stopped paying for things I couldn't afford." "You got promoted. You can afford it." "That doesn't mean I should." She turned to face me. "Timothy, I don't understand. We're family. Family helps each other." "You're right. Family helps each other. So why won't you help?" "I have been helping. For 3 years. I've given you over $60,000. Her eyes narrowed. "That's an exaggeration." I walked to the table. I picked up the folder. I handed it to her. "It's not." She opened it. She scanned the first page, the spreadsheet, the totals. Her face changed. "This isn't fair. You're counting every little thing. Every little thing. Like my promotion." She looked up at me. "That's not the same." "Why not?" "Because you don't need us to celebrate you. You're successful. You're independent. Melissa needs support. She's struggling. She's struggling because you've never let her struggle. You've protected her from every consequence. You've celebrated every tiny step. And you've ignored every big step I've taken." "That's not true." "When was the last time you celebrated something I did?" She didn't answer. "I'll help you out." "It was never. You've never celebrated me. Not once. We're proud of you, Timothy. You've never said it. We don't need to say it. You know." "No, Mom. I don't." Because when I got promoted, you told me I didn't need a celebration. And 2 hours later, you threw Melissa a party for a car I was paying for. Her face flushed. That's why you did this? Out of spite? No, I did this because I'm done being invisible. You're not invisible. Yes, I am. I've been invisible my entire life. I was the kid who did everything right, so you ignored me. I was the adult who paid for everything, so you used me. And when I finally said no, you called me selfish. Because you are being selfish. I laughed, not a happy laugh, a bitter one. I've given you $60,000 in 3 years. I've paid for Melissa's car, her phone, her emergencies. I've paid for your rent, your bills, your dinners. And the one time I stop, I'm selfish. We needed that help. And I needed you to see me. She stared at me, her mouth opened, then closed. I continued, I needed you to be proud of me. I needed you to celebrate me just once. But you never did. Because I didn't need it. Because I was fine on my own. So you gave everything to Melissa and you took everything from me. That's not what we did. Yes, it is. And I'm done. So, that's it? You're just cutting us off? Yes. Timothy, please. We can fix this. No, we can't. Because you don't think there's anything to fix. You think I'm the problem. You think I'm selfish for setting boundaries. And I'm tired of trying to convince you otherwise. What about Melissa? She needs help. Then help her yourself. We can't afford it. Then she'll figure it out. Just like I did. My mom's eyes filled with tears. You're really going to do this? I already did. She stood there for a moment. Then she picked up the folder. She walked to the door. She stopped. She turned. I hope you're happy. I will be. She left. I closed the door. I locked it. And I sat down on my couch. For the first time in my life, I felt like I mattered. 2 weeks passed. The call stopped. The text stopped. The guilt trip stopped. At first, I felt guilty. I felt like I had been too harsh, too cold. But then I remembered the dinner, the photo, the champagne. I remembered my mom's text, and the guilt faded. I heard from my cousin eventually. She called to tell me what happened after I cut them off. Melissa moved back in with my parents. She couldn't afford her own place without my help. She got a job, part-time, retail. It wasn't much, but it was something. My parents were struggling without my monthly payments. They had to adjust their budget. They canceled subscriptions. They cut back on dinners out. They were managing. Barely, but they were managing. And I was thriving. With the extra $3,100 a month, I paid off my student loans. I opened a savings account. I booked a vacation, a real one, just for me. I bought myself a new watch. The kind I had always wanted, but never let myself buy. I celebrated my promotion properly. I went to a nice restaurant. I ordered an expensive bottle of wine. I sat alone at a table for two. And I enjoyed every bite. I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. One morning, I got a text from Melissa. I'm sorry. I stared at it. That was all it said. I didn't respond right away. I thought about what to say, about whether to say anything at all. Finally, I typed back, thank you. She didn't reply. A few days later, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Timothy. Dad, how are you? I'm good. That's good. There was a long pause. Then he said, I wanted to say that I'm sorry. For not celebrating you, for not seeing how hard you worked. For taking advantage of your generosity. I didn't expect that. Thank you, I said quietly. I know we can't fix everything. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see you. My throat tightened. I appreciate that, Dad. If you ever want to come to dinner, you're always welcome. Maybe someday. Okay. We hung up. I sat on my couch. I looked around my apartment. This was my space, my life, my peace. I had spent 29 years being the dependable one. The invisible one. The one who gave everything and received nothing. But I wasn't that person anymore. I was the one who set boundaries. The one who said no. The one who chose himself. And it felt good. 3 months after I canceled the car payment. I took that vacation. I drove to the coast. I booked a small beach house. I spent a week doing nothing but reading, walking, and breathing. On the last evening, I sat on the beach and watched the sunset. The sky was orange and pink and purple. The waves were gentle. The air smelled like salt. I thought about my family, about my mom, my dad, Melissa. I didn't hate them. I didn't even resent them anymore. I just understood them. They had taken me for granted because I let them. They had ignored me because I never demanded to be seen. They had used me because I made it easy. And I had done it because I thought that's what love was. But love isn't sacrifice without recognition. Love isn't giving until there's nothing left. Love is mutual. Love is respect. Love is seeing someone and celebrating them. Not just when they struggle, but when they succeed. My family didn't know how to do that. Maybe they would learn, maybe they wouldn't. But it wasn't my job to teach them anymore. My phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. It was a text from Rose, my coworker. "How's the vacation?" I smiled. "Perfect." She sent back a thumbs up. I put the phone away. I thought about the cake, the single candle. The moment I blew it out and made the decision to stop. That moment had changed everything. It had given me my life back. I stood up. I brushed the sand off my jeans. I walked back to the beach house. Inside, I poured a glass of wine. I sat on the porch. I looked out at the ocean. I thought about the promotion, about the work I had put in, about the success I had earned. And I realized something. I didn't need anyone else to celebrate me. I could celebrate myself. I raised my glass. To me, I said quietly. To the little achievements and the big ones. I took a sip. The wine was perfect. The night was perfect. My life was perfect. And for the first time, I believed it.